welcome back to my channel. And today we are going to be doing my July and August wrap-ups. Finally, I know it's already September 4th when I am making this video, but I have been very busy this week, and today is like the first day that I can actually like sit and make this type of video. So that's what I'm going to do. I have 8 books to talk about. I read 5 books in July, and then I only read 3 books in August because I got into a big old slump in August, but that's okay. And as you can see, things look a little different here. This is going to be the spot where my new bed is going to go. As you guys may know, if you have watched my last video, my room that I have been in is getting redecorated and I'm getting a new bed. I have new bookshelves that are already up. They're right here. They're huge. I love them, and I am very, very excited for you guys to see the finished product. It's gonna be at least another week or 2 before it is officially finished and everything is done, but that's okay. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and talk about the books that I read in July and August. So the first book that I read in July was Wild as the Witch by Rachel Griffin. So this is a book that I read back in like early to mid-July, and the reason why I read it is because on my TikTok page I decided to do a Wheel of Shame. So for those of you guys who do not know, this summer there was a big trend going around on BookTok where people would make like a spin the wheel with their entire physical TBR, and then they would use that to pick out whatever they were going to read. So I decided to do that in the month of July, and I was supposed to do it in August, but like I said, I got into a big old slump, and so I didn't. I got this book first, and this is actually a book that I've had for a little while, and I've read Rachel Griffin before. I've actually read her 2 other books, which is The Nature of Witches and Bring Me Your Midnight. And honestly, this is definitely my favorite out of all 3. It was so good. Oh my goodness. It takes place in Washington, and it's about this girl who's a witch, and she gets into a crazy circumstance, which means that her and her work enemy have to go on this big old camping trip, and things just go from there. And I loved it. I flew through the audiobook of this. I thought it was fantastic. It was a 5-star read for me, and I loved it. I already knew I loved Rachel Griffin and her writing, but this was like at a whole other level, and it was just so sweet and fun and funny and romantic, and just I loved it. I loved it so much. So that was my first read of July. Then I did my Wheel of Shame once again, and I got here's the thing. When it comes to this author, Colleen Hoover, on social media or just in the bookish community in general, you either love her to death, she's your favorite author, or you hate her with your just entire being. And this is actually a book that I got through Book Outlet, I think last summer, and I feel like out of all of the books from her that I wanted to read, this was like the one that I wanted to read the most because I thought it was interesting. And so I did read it. Oh boy. Okay. Basically, it's about this woman named Verity who gets offered a job to be a ghostwriter for a well-known author, and she ends up staying in that author's house, and things just go awry from there. Yeah, for the most part, this book was pretty good. Like, it wasn't doing anything crazy, and then I got to the ending, and then I literally had moments, you know, like that, like when the internet goes out and you get like that error message. That was me. That was me. I was like, so when I finished this book, I basically just sat there in my bed for probably a good like 5-ish minutes, like just That was me. That was me. That was me. And my grandmother has wanted to read this as well, and she was in the other room, and I literally went into her bedroom. I plopped this down on her lap, and I was like, good luck. Good luck. Because I did end up giving this a 3.5 star, but honestly, I don't know if I would like even rate this book. I was very much debating on not rating it because I still, it's been like over a month, almost 2 months, and I still don't know how I feel about this book. Now, here's the thing. Does this make me want to read any other Colleen Hoover books? No, not really. But I am glad that I did finally read it to kind of draw my own conclusions about her. But yeah, this was something. All right, next up on my Wheel of Shame, I then got the Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. And this was one of the like OG books that I purchased when I very first got back into reading. It was the first time I ever went to a half-price books with the intention of like getting new books. And I saw this because I recognized it because at the time that I was on BookTok, it was like a very well-known recommendation because it was like September that I got into BookTok. And yeah, I read it. It takes place in Georgia, and it's about this woman who decides when she gets drunk one night to curse her ex-boyfriend who broke her heart, thinking it was just a joke. And then he comes back into her life 8 years later and realized, oh no, that curse that she put on, that hex that she put on her boyfriend, oh, that was very, very real. And so, yeah, I definitely saw the vibes of, you know, because a lot of people describe this as like a very Halloween Town-esque type of read. And I can definitely see that. I also gave this a 3.5 because it wasn't like amazing, but it wasn't like horrible either. It was just kind of middle of the road for me. I thought the relationship was pretty good. You know, I thought that the setting was really nice. It was a little weird to me though that it was Georgia, because from what I know, Georgia still gets pretty hot even in like the September-October time period. So that was a little weird to me. I feel like it would have made more sense if this was like a Halloween Town kind of vibe to put it somewhere more like north. But again, that's just me. I'm not from Georgia. I don't know anybody in Georgia, so I could be completely wrong about that. That was like the only thing that was like a little like, really? To me, but that's okay. Yeah, it was good. I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I finally got this off of my TBR. I do wish that I could have waited until like this time of year to read it, but it was still pretty good even if I was reading it a couple of months early. And yeah, it was good. Like I said, glad I read it. It was just kind of fine for me. Okay, the next book that I read was actually a book that I got through NetGalley, and that is Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. Now, as a lot of people know, Holly Jackson is like one of my all-time favorite authors. She's probably my favorite YA author of all time. And this is her newest book, Not Quite Dead Yet. It's about this girl who gets attacked on Halloween night, and she has been given a very short time to live because of certain injuries and like issues that she's had. She decides to use this very short amount of time that she has left to solve what happened to her. And this book was so good. I mean, I expect nothing less from Holly Jackson, but this is like the first like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder book that I've read. And yeah, I still love her. I still love this book. I really loved the main character, Jet. I thought she was a really great, very realistic character, you know, and I think that the concept itself was also super duper interesting. I also loved that she had a really fun like sidekick. Like if you guys love Ravi from A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, there's a male character in here that gives the very similar vibes. So I would definitely recommend you guys check that out as well. Like I said, I love this book. I thought it was great. I think that if you love YA thrillers, if you love Holly Jackson, anything like that, I would totally recommend this. I think that this book was fantastic, and like I said, she's amazing, and I'm glad that I got to read this. So the next book that I then read was a book that took me a while to read because it's quite chunky, and that is Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. And when I tell you, the narration was just so good. Everything about this was such an interesting vibe. So it's about this school, a all-girls school in Rhode Island, and in the early 1900s there's a weird set of like accidents and deaths that happen at this school, and it's all kind of set around this book. I forget the author that they the author of the book that they were talking about, but it was like very much like based on that. So that you have a lot of different like stuff happening like with those events, but then you also have a plot line happening about 100 years later in like this time period, and they're actually making a movie about all the events that happen at this school. And it's just one of those like, something's not quite right, something's off with, and again, the narration was so good because the person that is narrating the book is actually talking at you. Like he's actually, like he, she, they, whoever it is, they're actually talking to you. They mention you, and you know, they also leave like little notes like this. They leave like little notes at the bottom with like extra information, and it was just so cool. Like it was such a cool reading experience, and even though this book is a pretty chunky book, it still like felt like still so like fun to read, and I really enjoyed this book. And I did give it 4.5 stars because again, it wasn't quite a 5-star read for me. There were parts that were a little but honestly, I still really enjoyed it. I loved all the different characters that we got to meet. I loved like the different stories that we got, you know, and the different timelines as well. I love a more than one timeline type of story. That is always a like plus for me, so this was great. And I really don't see this on bookish social media ever, so I would totally recommend this. It's a great kind of thriller mystery type of book, and there's LGBTQ representation in this as well, so it's a great book for that. And I just thought that this book was so good, and I would totally recommend it. All right, so the next book that I read was actually a reread for me, and did this take me about 6 months to finish? Yes, it did. Couldn't tell you why, but it did. So I reread an annotated Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This is a book that I read for the very first time last spring, and I really wanted to dive back into this book, into this world. And I originally was going to do it with the intention of then picking up Iron Flame and reading and annotating that. And then when it took me about 6 months to do that, I was like, yeah, no, I need a break from this world. So I am going to eventually get to Iron Flame and to Onyx Storm, but not right now. Because like I said, it took me 6 months to get through this book. So that's fun. But yeah, I mean, what can I say about this book that hasn't been said already? It's a great book in my opinion. I think I originally gave it 4 stars, and I think with this reread, I think I would give it probably about the same, maybe a 4.5. I really do enjoy this book. I know that it's not everybody's favorite, but I think that I really enjoy it. I like the character of Violet. But I really do love this book, and it was really nice to dive back into this world and to have a second look, because it is kind of nice to do a reread, because you will pick up on things that, you know, you didn't the first time. Although I think another reason why it took me so long is because once I got to that scene at the end, if you know, you know, I was like, I don't wanna. I even put notes in here. I was like, I don't want to. I don't want to do it. I don't want to read it. I don't want to. It still happened though, and it was painful even the second time, even though I knew what was coming, and it was still so painful. But I did finally finish this in mid-August, on my mom's birthday actually. Glad that I did, and like I said, I will eventually pick up Iron Flame. Just, I needed a break from this, because when it takes you months and months and months to read a book, you just get a little burned out from it. So yeah, but like I said, I did annotate the crap out of this book. If you ever want me to do a video about how I annotate and like just annotating in general, let me know, because I could definitely do that. But yeah, really glad that I decided to dive back into this world. So yeah. So the next book that I read was another NetGalley arc, and I do not have it in my physical possession. So I will put a picture up. But the book that I did read was The Battle of the Bookshops, and it is basically a loose interpretation of Romeo and Juliet, only in this case it is two people that own rivaling bookstores right across the street from each other. And I honestly really loved this book. It was a fun romance. I did love the kind of history, and of course it was a book about books, so I of course loved that too. And I also loved the side characters as well as the side plots that this book offered. I think I gave this book a 4-star maybe? I think it was like 3.5, 4 stars. So, you know, I thought it was a great, fun read. It was great to kind of wrap up my summer with a quick little fun romance set in the UK. So I really did enjoy that read, and I will probably get the physical book at some point. I just haven't yet. So yeah, that is my last NetGalley arc for this video. So the final book that I ended up reading in August was a book that was my last pick in my Wheel of Shame, and that is What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez, I believe is how you say her last name. And dear God almighty, this book was good. This book is about a girl by the name of Inez, whose parents for her entire life have gone and spent 6 months out of the year in Egypt and always have left her behind. And of course she is always like missing her parents and always wants to go with them, but they never allow her to. So finally, when she is 17 or 18, she finally writes them a letter and is basically begging them to let her go with her on this trip to Egypt and let her join them finally. And she ends up getting a letter back, but it's not from her parents, it's actually from her uncle that she hasn't seen in like a decade, saying that her parents have gone missing. So she decides that she is going to go to Egypt by herself and solve the mystery of her parents, and ends up getting into so many different trials and tribulations, and yeah. So this is a book that is actually the first of a duology, and this is also my very first book that is set in Egypt, and I loved this. It was such a good book. I loved the writing. I loved the setting. This is like Egypt in like the 1830s. So it was honestly really cool because there were so many things that I feel like could still be very relevant in today's day and age, like people from like the UK coming in and like trying to sell Egyptian artifacts for a profit, and like that is a very big plot in this book. and I feel like that could still be an issue today. And I loved the character of Inez. I loved the other side characters. I thought her uncle was a very interesting character, as well as her kind of male sidekick named Wit. I thought he was a fantastic side character as well. And there are so many different twists and turns in this book that you don't ever really see coming. And I thought it was a great book. I did give this 4.5 stars. But honestly, if I did quarter ratings, I would probably give it a 4.75. But I don't do quarter ratings, so. But just know, this is like almost a 5-star read. Really need to read the second book, especially after that epilogue. It was barely even a page. And immediately I was like, what? What do you mean? Huh? What does that mean? I swear. The fact that I haven't gone and gotten the second book yet is appalling. But you know what? It's okay. I will get it eventually and I will read it because I need to know. I need to know what happens, and I swear to God, if people make stupid decisions, I am going to scream. Anyway, I really like this. Those are all of the books that I read in both July and August. Like I said, I didn't get to read a ton in August because I got into a big old reading slump. So this next wrap up will be all of my spooky season reads. So I am very excited for all of those, and I cannot wait for you guys to see the finished product of my room. I'm hoping the next time I make a YouTube video, everything will be done and I will be able to kind of show you guys like a little bit more of like what the final product is. But anyways, so thank you guys all so very, very much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next video.